Missing the point. The Celtics are up 3-0, and I have the triumphant return, the prodigal son, Robert Kelly, back on the podcast. Bob, since you've been gone, shout out Kelly Clarkson, since you've been gone,
Kelly.
They said Kyrie just needs to play well. That didn't matter. They said, it's going to be tough without Kristaps Porzingis in there. That didn't matter. They said if they start a comeback, this team will fold. That didn't do anything. They said Jason Tatum, he's affecting the game, but can he really properly score? Didn't matter. I said Luka's bitching a lot to the refs, and on national television, he really spiraled in that sense. Really, really spiraled. Really lost mentally the game for himself. Everything essentially people were banking on happening to the Celtics, an implosion, a meltdown, all the wrong decisions happened to the Mavs. And the blow-by highlights of Luka Doncic over the last few games, everybody can just get by him. My favorite highlight being Kyrie gets completely spun around in the high post, and JB just gets the ball in the corner right behind him, and he's completely just missing, trying to turn around and defend, and JB just wets it. It almost seems to me like there's no circumstances. Maybe the next thing will be Mercury's in retrograde. If it wasn't in retrograde, the Mavs will win. Maybe the next thing will be, Kyrie's going to shave his beard. That beard is bad luck. So that's going to... Nothing makes this Dallas Mavericks team beat this Boston Celtics team because they're too good. They're too good. Their defensive stats have been absurd. And I just want to give you the floor here because we haven't heard from you or your perspective across the playoffs, across the whole series. Where do you stand on the narrative, the national narrative that, maybe they didn't play anybody? Some people are pushing back on that. Where do you stand on the teams that we've played? What this championship means? Because I personally am still delighted. Suck it, nerds. Sorry, we're the best team. That's sort of where I stand.
It's funny. I saw a story today saying that the Bucks handed the Celtics the championship when they botched the Jrue and Damian Lillard trade, and I'm just like, man, they have to find something to take this championship down and away from us. They can't let us just steamroll to a championship and only lose one game and not be considered one of the top teams in NBA history. It's annoying to me.
Two games.
No, man, it's wild to see them take exactly what everyone said that they couldn't do and turn it right on the head. And I think last game is the perfect epitome of the entire thing. Because if you look at it, the Kristaps being out, that's what everyone said was going to be.
It was almost a perfect storm, and in fact, it was. It was all the things that they said this Celtics team makes this Celtics team fold. It was all the things all at once.
Especially the Lob City portion of it, because everyone was like, oh, the Lob City's going to come back because they don't have... Bro, the Mavericks, we've been shutting them down literally for 3 straight games. Luka, to me... Dude, he can't play a lick of defense, that dude. He cannot play defense. They just literally attack him the entire game.
I mean, the thing is you can sort of hide him against, say... Because, it was weird. We didn't talk about this, but it was weird when they played the Timberwolves because it was wow, it's their backcourt's weirdly light, the Timberwolves. They were built specifically to beat the Nuggets, and they almost beat them around early because they had this, sort of Twin Towers approach where they were just throwing bodies at Jokic, and they were sort of, they're making it work. And Anthony Edwards was making it look like there weren't backcourt deficiencies because he was playing out of his fucking mind, right? And when it was Luka and Kyrie, they sort of two-manned him. It was similar to what Ray and Paul did to LeBron in 08. They sort of just cut him with 1,000 knives, death by 1,000 cuts, right? And they just did that to Anthony Edwards, and it worked because he's 22 and he's going to be great, but those two are veterans and they're killers, Right. So I don't think it hurt his stock at all. I mean, I still think overall his stock went up, but that's another conversation for another day. They're not able to do that against the Celtics team because we can switch onto them a guy that can guard both those guys whenever we want. He's literally every position something on Tatum. He's kind of getting something on Tatum. He's kind of getting Tatum, but Tatum's ego's out of it. His ego's been removed from it, which I appreciate. And Drew goes like, all right, hold on, let me get him real quick. And then you don't hear from Luka for 8 minutes. You just, it's like Drew's just like, I got him for a second. It's fine. Now, when they were making this huge push, this huge comeback, we just kept our poise and kept doing that. We were like, all right, it's okay. Like one of these rotations will slow him down. You know, it's all right. Al was still playing, like when they would get the switch on Al, he was still just like playing like he was in a finals game. You know, there was no, I mean, yeah, there was a mismatch and he got a couple of times, don't get me wrong, but like there was no like, oh shit, you know, like he just blew by. Like he was just still trying. He was still had his hand like, you know, up the whole way when one of the guys blew by him and he still affected a bunch of Lucas shots, you know. He just looked like a guy who was playing his fucking ass off in a game 3 of a final series, you know. And yeah, Kristaps is missing and that hurts. But at the end of the day, the matchup between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum compared to Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving is lopsided. It's lopsided in our favor. Like I mean, you can say if you want that it's because of how good the whole roster is, and it is. It is. Like I think that this series would be closer if we didn't have a big Kristaps Porzingis game, a big Drew Holiday game, a big Derek White game to like throw into the mix. You know, we might go to 6 or 7, but at the end of the day, I think our 2 best guys are just playing better than their 2 best guys. Kyrie Irving mailed it in for the first 2 games, and even though he had a great game 3, it didn't fucking matter because the Jays both fucking broke 30 points. You know, so our guys are just better than their guys. And as far as the national narrative goes, as you were saying, why can't people just accept that? We did a show about how it was unfair to put Luka over Tatum in the Ringer rankings. And I'm seeing nothing to dissuade me from that, to be honest with you, because has Luka been better offensively? Absolutely. But he's a liability. He's a liability on the defensive end.
Complete liability. And it was on display for almost the entire game. You know what I mean? And not only the entire game, but the entire series. Like from moment one, that's been the biggest thing the Celtics that have attacked is
they just attacked him.
We get him on an island, and that's what we do every single time. It seems, except for game 1 where Porzingis took over for a while, it seems like that's been our strategy the entire time. Attack Doncic, attack Irving, and those are the guys that we go after.
And he's also too small for like all of our guys. Like all of them.
I think what it's doing too is it affects them offensively because especially Doncic has been trying to exert so much defensively that it affects him offensively. And even where did he score? I think he had like 37 in game 2. It was the quietest 37 I've ever seen from Luka.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I agree so hard. It's so hard.
It's such a fucked up thing to say.
Tatum does that sometimes too, right? Where you're like, he had fucking 35. I'm like, where? I don't even remember that.
And it's been like that the entire series. I think the Timberwolves would have given the Celtics much more of a run for their money in this series had they beaten Dallas. Because I just feel like we match up with Dallas so well because of the guards that we have, man. And because, especially D. White and Drew, they can D up on both those guys and stay in front of them pretty much.
Switches are crazy.
Right.
Like we can switch. The only liability in switches are when Horford's on the floor and they switch him to the perimeter on a Luka or a Kyrie. But he even did like a little bit better than he was doing, say like this time last year or like round 1 last year against the Sixers when Harden was cooking him. But he just like, he's been playing great. Like it almost like the more minutes like sort of benefited him, you know, like strangely enough, even though his age, but he's had a great finals. So he's had a great playoffs, if you ask me. But I think any other switch of our first 6, maybe possibly 7 guys is just fine. Even Hauser had a couple decent defensive moments and he's had a couple of really big offensive moments. Like he's basically the Eddie House of this team. Like he's hit a bunch of big shots and he had that one that made him, you know, made the rounds as a highlight because he didn't take it down at all. He just like caught it and shot.
That was
which was like, it's like the most white guy ass like skill move, but like it was like very cool. And like, yeah, like he's just doing his thing, you know, like he's out there. He had a stinker of a game too, but he, you know, he's contributing. Pritchard, I mean, Luka licks his lips every time he sees Peyton Pritchard and he absolutely murders him. But Mazzulla was doing, and you know what, we should come on to talk about Joe Mazzulla because I do have some apologies to make. I think Mazzulla was reacting to those switches and that happening. Like he would get switched on to Pritchard, and it was like night and day different from the Miami series last year where Jimmy would obviously be just 100% ready to victimize Peyton Pritchard. He would get switched onto him, and then Mazzulla would just let that happen for, minutes at a time, and it would just be a murder that you were watching, just over and over again. He would just kill Peyton Pritchard one after the other, after the other, after the other. And now in this series, Pritchard would get switched on to Aluka. It happened a few times more than I would have liked in game one, but he actually missed the shots. That like he just wasn't making the shots in the mismatch, so it didn't really matter. That was just lucky, I think. But in game three, like he got killed a couple times, and then Joe just made a switch, And like what was nice is you have the Jaylen Brown or Jrue Holiday or to a lesser extent Derek White to switch on to a guy like that. You can just be like, fuck it, just go get him. Also, when Porzingis was out there, and this is what I was worried about going into game three, blow-bys weren't really an issue because if Porzingis is standing around the rim, like what's Kyrie Irving going to do when he gets there? Like I would love to see it. I would love to see what the idea is that he hasn't thought of, because it reminded me a little bit of when LeBron James figured out Rajon Rondo's driving ability, and then he was never the same. Do you remember that series when like Rondo would start driving and LeBron was like, every time he goes up, I'm going to absolutely clear him the fuck out, right? And it's going to be a fair play because I'm just like more athletic coming from the other direction. Because Rondo was like using his athleticism to sort of get by people, but he was always laying it up. He was like never really dunking it, right? It was always very soft around the rim. And LeBron just started getting up there and just absolutely swatting all of his shots.
And he couldn't hit free throws.
So he couldn't hit free throws. And even if he did go to the line, he couldn't hit free throws. And then the rest of the league was like, Rondo's layups take so long. They take so long in the air. And he basically had to just become an all-assist guy after that because he was not scoring, with anyone around that could actually make a play on the ball. And that's what Porzingis was doing. He was just like, are you going to try and score or are you going to lob it? Because either way, I'm going to be in that space. And he would just fill the lane, jump up, and just swat it away every single time pretty much. Derek White had a few trailing, and the switches are just so appetizing now. Like they can't really hurt us in any serious matchup type way. But on to Joe, I mean, he's honestly improved so much. He's really honestly improved.
I love his press conferences too. He doesn't say
a fucking weirdo
to anyone. Yeah, he doesn't say shit to anyone, man.
He's a real weirdo. Like, have you seen the Joker memes?
Yeah. Yes. It
looks dude really thinks he's the Joker. He's like, aren't we all villains in someone's story? Now listen, he's kooky, but he's been making the right plays, the right switches, the right rotational minutes in the finals. There was moments in the rest of the playoffs where I was still a little bit like, Joe, can you just stop eating crayons for me, buddy? Like, just make the right calls at the right times. He's been very unafraid, and he did a really good job in that run in game three to call timeouts, and he was liberal with them. And that was the right thing to do. He's like, all right, I guess we still don't have it. Let's go. Let's get back. That's the right thing to do.
It is.
He's like, all right, you're still not executing. Let's talk about it again and just use the timeout. Just like you control the game. You control the game. You control what you're doing. You can't control the crowd. You can't control what the other team's doing. Just control what you're doing in that situation. And I always think about what you said. I was thinking about it throughout that portion. You always would reference Doc Rivers. Play defense, your shots will fall. Play defense, your shots will fall. You were saying that all the way through the Warriors series, the last time we were talking about this team in the finals. And it was echoing in my head when it's like, that episode of The Office when it's like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Because you said it so much on the show, I now hear it as your quote, not Doc Rivers' quote. So
I'll take.
Now I hear your voice in my head going like, just play defense, your shots will fall. And that's what they did. They went out there and they were like, we're just going to keep being a problem for them on defense. If we do that, they'll cool off sooner than later. And then we're just going to make big shots because we still have a lead. And they did not let it get into their heads. They weathered the storm. They had poise. They had grace. They had all the things we were bitching, moaning, and complaining about they didn't have. And honestly, they proved us wrong. And I think Joe Mazzulla proved me wrong in particular because he's gotten better. Actually, not wrong, because he sucked as much as I said he did when I said that he did. But he's gotten a lot better. And I have to give him credit for that, right? What have been your impressions of Joe?
Yeah, I think game three is kind of a good, like, he balanced the equation out finally for those timeouts. And I think that game three was a solid picture of that, because that game in the past, we lose that game almost every single time. You know what I mean? In the past few years, or at least it would have gotten a lot closer than it did. You know what I mean? Like, because that game was never really in question. They made kind of that comeback. I think. What did we end up winning by?
In game 3,
Yeah,
probably like 8 points.
yeah. I think it
Let
was.
me double check.
Yeah, it was like 8 or 9. But in the past,
7. 7.
7. Okay. In the past, that game definitely is way more in question. Um, I never really had a doubt that we were gonna win.
I was
It's
pretty confident too, which is strange.
yeah, even what I think we were up. We now went up 21 at some point in the second quarter, and
Yeah.
it's just like for the Celtics to blow that lead and us and not lose confidence shows you how much better Joe
I
Mazzulla
could
is.
see it in their body language, though. You could like the Jalen Brown specifically, but also to a certain extent, Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum. They just didn't look like they were like letting it get away from them. Like Drew Holiday was still just communicating, and
Yeah,
his alpha sort of presence across the whole finals has been really, really nice and refreshing to see because he's just like it's fine
he's
because
so
what they're doing,
loose. He's so
they're
loose, man.
thinking defense first every time.
Yeah,
They're thinking defense first every time, which is you and I had a conversation about how heartbreaking it was to lose Ime Udoka because he made them think defense first every single time. But Joe's got them thinking that way now again. Or, the players realized that that was the fucking magic cocktail that worked in the past. But they did it in reverse order. They didn't get to the finals, right? This must have always been the plan. And I think it's fucking genius because when they got to the finals against Golden State, they were exhausted. And it's because they played lights out defense for 3 series before that, right? They just got there by playing defense. You remember it was the KD can't do shit against Jason Tatum series, 4-0
yeah.
against Brooklyn. Like, we just clamped them up. That's what we did. We fucking clamped them up. I was there. We fucking saw it. We saw it with our eyes. We did that to every team all the way through. We did that to the Sixers. We did that to the Bucks, if you remember, and it was exhausting.
It was the most exhausting
It was
series.
exhausting. I
the
was
most
tired. I was tired. So I can't imagine how the players felt. And they looked clearly tired by the time they got to Golden State. So what did they do this time? They were like, we're just going to blow everybody out with our offense. And we'll have that defense as the final arrow in our quiver when we get to the finals. And we'll be so rested by the time we need to play it because they won every game in every series in 5 games or less. And and in these finals, it couldn't possibly benefit us more because we go two full rest days. I mean, if that isn't good for the Al Horfords of the world, this is set up for us to win. I don't blame the conspiracy theorists, quite frankly.
And it's what I think another way you could look at it too is the way that they've been quality of the shots that the Mavericks have to fight for every single time down the court versus the quality of shots that we get just based off of like our ball movement and stuff like that is night and day, man. Like I feel like the Mavs are working.
We're not giving them any easy.
Yeah, they're working so hard for those extra shots, especially the extra guys.
Especially game 1, I thought we really succeeded in that in game 1. Like they had to work so hard for every look. And like every time Luka would cash, tell me if you felt this way. Every time Luka would cash, I'd be like, yeah, I'll settle for a fucking layup. We're up 13. Like Luka can have those. He'll get those. So he can have those. But he never started just going fucking lights out from 3. We just didn't let that happen. We ran him off the 3-point line every single time. We would like double team him or like set little screens or whatever it was. And they were setting a lot of fucking illegal screens, by the way, over the course of those 3 games that they were getting away with. And the team didn't get rattled by that either. But no, the Luka hard shots thing is what I want to stay on because we just didn't let him ever get comfortable. And all the points he got were the points we were all okay with. The ones we could live with. That's why you're talking about a quiet 37. Because you're like, every time he would score, you'd be like, all right, I'll live with that. You were doing the math in your head of like how much we were up and like what they needed in that situation for momentum. And you'd be like, that's fine. With the kind of the exception of the big comeback against in game 3. Like that, we had to stop some bleeding for sure. But I thought we applied the tourniquet well. And how did we do it? We went at him. We went at him and we made him make stupid mistakes. Because honestly, they were like, Luka Doncic has to beat us. Like, let's go. Are you gonna? And he couldn't. It was just too much for him. He couldn't. That's just the truth. And, you can talk about him bitching to the refs or whatever. And I know that that is a thing. But what really matters is that he couldn't get it fucking done, dude. And Tatum did. So, sorry. I mean, I still think Brown's probably finals MVP. I don't know your thoughts on that. But overall, like where's your Luka stock right now? Like, how do you view the market there? And like, how did his stock against our guys make you see our guys any differently?
So what's funny is like, coming into the year, me and you personally compared JT and Luca a lot.
Yeah, we
You
had
know
a
what I
whole
mean?
we did almost a whole episode on it at one
Yeah.
point.
And it's funny that now we're at the point where they're playing in the finals and JT's not really playing up to the standard that we expect from him. You know what I mean? He's not hitting his threes. His jump shot's a little off, but he's still affecting the game in
His
like
scoring is,
another positive
quite
way.
frankly, his scoring has been atrocious in the
But
finals.
isn't that exactly what we said
Yeah.
was the reason why he is above Luca? It's coming true right in front of our eyes, bro.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
absolutely right.
we talked about the reason why this dude is so much different than Luca is because Luca affects the game with his scoring. The ball has to run through him at all times, and it does. For him to be effective, he needs to have the ball in his hands. And JT is not that. You know what I mean? JT, yes, he's gonna catch shade from the Boston sports media, whoever, for not scoring 40 a night. But when you watch the game, you notice JT on the floor on defense. You notice him grabbing those rebounds, boxing out, and doing those things that, don't really go noticed unless you're actually watching the game. Luka is the exact opposite, where it's like once he's out of it, bro, I've never seen a superstar jog down the court bitching at the refs as much as Luka does. eh, in the NBA finals.
And
It's
this is
not
the
like
thing we used to clown on Tatum.
kill him for.
Like, well, as a fan base, we were harder on him than the Mavericks fan base seems to be on Luka. Like that's why you're fucking losers, by the way. But like they would constantly just be like defending him and being like, he's still this, he's still that. And like I was saying to Mike and Ray the other day, and I think you'll relate to this too. It's like you can't bitch at the refs and talk shit to the crowd, right? And additionally, if you're talking shit to the crowd in Boston, like, yeah, cool, bro. Like, you're talking shit to the first four rows. They came in their little Patagonia vests from the financial district to watch the Celtics versus the Mavs, like in first four row seats. Go into the nosebleeds and say that.
Yeah, for real.
Just let's just see. Let's just see what happens because you won't. Because you're not about it. You know you're safe out there in the court. You're bitching to the refs, and you're a little bit of a hold me back, bro. To be honest, you're a little bit of a hold me back guy. And my guys went out there and just took care of business. Like at points, you and I have been mad at them about like not being like a little bit more aggro to the other teams. A lot, like a little KG went a long way with us, right? Where he would get into it with guys, and you'd be like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, KG, like talk that shit, like get into their heads, like talk your shit, right?" We've been mad at them for not being more like that, but you know what? They're stone cold. That's what they've turned into. They're just getting the job done now. JT's been significantly better with the refs. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes,
He still says some shit because he's the best player on the team. He has to, right? Like there's certain times where it's like, guys, but he still gets back up the court. And now there's highlights that exist of Luka bitching to the referees instead of getting back and us whamming a fucking three in their face. And that's embarrassing, guy. You can't be playing like that as the superstar on your team. You're walking in the footsteps of giants. Best player on team in finals. That is a short fucking list, dude. That Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, fucking Paul Pierce. I know I said him third, but it is a Boston sports podcast. Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. Like these are names of guys, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. These are names of guys that were the best player on a finals team that lost finals. But they don't have highlights like that.
Yeah.
Luka's young, dude. He's 25 years old. Like he'll be back, but he's got to get some shit out of his game, bro. He's got to get some shit out of his game. This reminds me, you know what it reminds me of, honestly? And I would maybe put an asterisk to say that I'm not comparing him to LeBron on skill, but honestly, he's pretty good. So who cares? It reminds me of when Dirk took it to LeBron in that finals. And LeBron was like, it was a make or break summer right after that. You remember this, right?
Yeah.
It was, I got to go get a post game. I just got shown up in front of the whole world that I didn't have. I have no post game. And for a guy my size, playing at the 3 or the 4, swing man, any of those like outside wing positions, Dirk Nowitzki was able to just like get me switched onto him in the post and kill me. Just kill me, right? So he left, went away to the foreign lands of the deep jungle to learn the ancient ways of the post game. And he came back a better player, a more complete player. And I would advise Luka to look at that and also look maybe a little bit about how he approaches the game of basketball as far as like, what he's asking for from the referees, the fans, the universe. He might have to have a little come to Jesus moment with himself, don't you think?
Well, I agree, because if you look at who's favorite to win the MVP right now, it's Jalen and Drew Holiday. I'd say
Yeah.
those.
I mean, that's my list. But Drew, for me, I would pick Drew at this moment in time.
I would too.
I actually think that the Finals MVP matters less to this team than like we've seen in bygone days. I don't think it really matters who gets it, and I think that they should be telling each other it doesn't matter who gets it when they shouldn't be thinking about it, because who gives a fuck? The Larry O'Brien. That's what we do here.
That is what matters. Yeah.
There was a team in 2008 we watched where I would argue that Kevin Garnett was the most talented player on that team, or the best player on that team. I would also argue that he was the best player in that finals, to be totally honest with you. But when Paul Pierce got the Finals MVP, I was 100% fine with that. I just was, because of course it's Paul's team. He deserved it, but it didn't matter as much. It became this other thing in the interim. Don't you think? Like the internet era is a little too obsessed with the Finals MVP. We hang banners here. That's what we do. We hang fucking banners.
Hopefully 18 of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, this fan base, winning titles is the most healthy thing that can happen to a fan base. And there is a level of toxicity in the Boston Celtics fan base after 16-year drought that needs to be washed away, like a cleanse, baptism, back into the annals of the success that we're uncomfortable when we're not winning titles because we're a title-winning franchise. It's very strange for our identities. Look at how weird all the Patriots fans are going. They're going weird as fuck. They're staying up late at night, convincing themselves that Drake May is going to be the next Tom Brady. They've lost their minds. They're carving shit into the
Drake May can
fucking
fly.
wall.
Yeah.
Exactly, Bob. You have a particularly keen insight to this. But as crazy as you might be, sorry if you're thinking Drake May is going to turn your franchise around. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
We're sitting here looking down the barrel of a potential banner, 3-0 up, very good percentage chance. And I just want everyone to like relax after that and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Because we're still going to have a really good team next year, right?
Oh, yeah. This isn't going away, especially when you look at the way that this team has been built, is built for that future success. We already signed Drew to a long-term contract. So this isn't going.
Glad he's locked up. He's great.
Yeah. So, and I can't talk about how important that dude is to everything. The two moves.
I love him so much.
The two moves that this team made by bringing Kristaps in and getting Drew Holiday this offseason were above and beyond the most important thing to how this team is built. And you could see it just over those first 3 games. I mean, you look at, I know
I would argue that, I mean, we could see that Drew is far and away the most important offseason acquisition because Kristaps has barely fucking played.
But even in that one game, you saw how much he meant to that team in the regular season.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I think
that first half was unbelievable.
I'm convinced that, I know this is hypothetical, there's no way for me to prove this, but I'm convinced if we had a fully healthy Porzingis, we would have beaten anybody coming out of the West after what I saw in game 2.
He was
in game 1. I mean,
he was
in game
so
1.
good,
It's like that was crazy. Like, he came out and just went bananas. Like, he went absolutely fucking bananas. It was one of the most fun things I've ever experienced. I got to the bar late to meet my buddy, and I was like trying to find parking. It was like 7-4. And then it was like close. It's like 14-16 at one point. And then Porzingis just came out like a fucking man possessed. Like, he was just flying through the fucking air. And honestly, you're right. They're huge minutes. They were some of the huge minutes of the whole season.
He was my front runner for MVP. Even
if he played like that in one more game, he gets Finals MVP.
Agreed.
Like, or even close to that. Like, he gets Finals MVP, no question.
And it's just, for those two guys to make this big of an impact on this team, it really does show you how good of a GM Brad Stevens is, man. I swear to God, I'm not worried about the compilation of this team whatsoever moving forward. You know, in any way, like us having to resign Jay or having to do this, Brad's gonna figure it out. And Brad, we trust, man, because this team was put together so perfectly for this fucking run that it didn't even matter that we didn't have Porzingis throughout this playoff run. But it shows you from that game one how much easier a 15-2 record in the playoffs, how much easier we could have had it if we had this entire squad together.
If Porzingis was in the playoffs, like I think that might have been the worst if he participated in any of the series after he got hurt. That might have been the worst thing for the NBA imaginable because like it would have just been like there would have been no drama. Like everyone would have been looking at the Celtics and being like, "Oh no, there's no way that they're gonna lose to anybody." Because like all those, and I was saying this on the pod was really helpful. Like all those teams in the West killed each other. You know, like they were really just absolutely beating each other up over there. Like those are hard fought series. They just were matchup wise, like everything. And like the reason that the Mavs got to us, like they were the Pacers of the West. Now, granted, the West is a lot better, but they really shouldn't like they were really benefited from the fact that like a very kind of tired and discombobulated Timberwolves team came out of that Nuggets series because they had to give everything to win that. And it was a great series, but they left everything on the
and
court.
the fact that the Nuggets lost that series. I think that the only team that would have given the
I think the Nuggets would have
whatever
absolutely
it
crushed
is.
the Mavs. The Nuggets would have walked the Mavs. I think they would have absolutely dog walked them, to be honest.
Well, they would have no one to deal with Jokic. Would they put Cleaver on him? Or is
I mean,
that,
look at what Porzingis was
difference?
able to do to them. I mean, I guarantee you, Jokic would have absolutely just had the easiest time. And we got killed. Me and Ray were on maybe like 3 or 4 days before the final started, and I was like, "Yo, not for nothing, guys, but like, I know that I guess round one and round two performances hinged on the real breakout performance of your rookie big, right?" And everybody was like, "Really? What the fuck is that guy's name?"
Who? Naz Reid?
No, the big guy on the Mavs, the center.
Kleber?
Is it Kleber? Why can't I fucking
Oh, Derek Lively.
Lively. Everybody was saying like, "Oh, Lively's had such a crazy game against the series against the T-Wolves. He's so good. He's this, he's that." And I was like, "Guys, if just so you know, if Porzingis is out there, Lively is gonna get killed. Like if Porzingis is even at like 90%." And what I said was, and this just apparently inflamed the comment section of the internet. I said, I can think of maybe 5 or 6 centers better than Kristaps Porzingis. I can think of probably 25 better than Lively. And that's no shade to him. He's young. He's going to get better. But right now, it's not going to go well. And man, we must have made it onto Mavs TikTok because they came for my head. They came for my head about their boy Lively. And I just did a victory lap with all of them after Kristaps just fucking swallowed him. And
He had 0 points.
I went through like every comment. I was like, "What's up? What happened? Oh shit, was I right?" Like, sorry, buddy. Like, it was so satisfying to watch because that's not fair to build that kid up like that. He's 20. He's 20 years old. He's gonna be really good. And he had a breakout series. But come on, dude. Come on. With how Porzingis has been playing this season, just tell me you didn't watch any games in the regular season without telling me. You know what I mean? Like you have no idea what you're fucking looking at. That's the problem. It's these motherfuckers that tune in for the playoffs.
Yeah, he wasn't ready for this at all.
That's not fair, though. I'm not clowning on him for that. I was just letting people know that facts. Like these are facts. Like I'm sorry that it annoyed you, and I know that's the internet. I know that's the culture we live in, but facts don't care about your feelings.
Well, that's how you know that team wasn't set up for the success because you look at their pieces around them. I can think of like 5 to 6 Maverick. Anything past that is tough for me to put. I would have to look up to see who else is on the roster, who gets playing time, who gets significant minutes. The Celtics, man, I guarantee you go up to a casual NBA fan that can name 7 to 8 people off this team. Because think about Jrue Holiday. So our starting 5 is Jrue Holiday, All-Star, Tatum, Brown, Kristaps,
champion, by the way.
Al Horford,
Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, former 3rd overall pick. Jaylen Brown, former 3rd overall pick. Jason Tatum, former 3rd overall pick. Jrue Holiday, former champion, former All-Star. Also, Derek White doesn't actually have that many accolades, but like I would give him like
Derek
most
White.
improved player, maybe like breakout player of the last 6 seasons.
Yeah,
Bald Derek White,
Derek
White, Super Saiyan Derek White when he went bald, right?
Best blocker in the NBA.
I agree with you. I think we're more famous than them. I totally agree. I think Luca has like a worldwide following. Like I think that across the world he's lumped in with like the kind of Neymars and the Mbappes and like those type of guys, the Erling Haalands of the world, like the kind of international stars. So that might make up some numbers. But I do agree with you that I admittedly didn't know a ton about the Tim Hardaway Juniors of the world. They're 17 million and below players. I was definitely less familiar with. I'm obviously quite familiar with Kyrie Irving, and I do think we should come on to talk about this because, quite frankly, I'd like to take this opportunity because I think you can vouch for the fact that I didn't turn on him post Celtics as hard as the rest of the greater Celtics fans, right?
Yeah.
I always sort of stuck up for him as like a baller.
He's always been a baller.
And it wasn't until he started saying like wildly anti-Semitic bullshit that I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm out on this guy. Like, fuck him. Like, that's bottom. I can't do this. And I've really appreciated that he has turned it around, made it about basketball, put his head down, showed us all what kind of a player he is, which is, again, a baller. But in saying that, you can absolutely suck my nuts, dude. I'm so glad you're here to see this team that you tried to fucking derail. You tried so fucking hard to derail this team. You thought that you were big enough to knock this train off its tracks. You did think that. We know that you thought that. You knew what you were doing. When you left, you thought you were bigger than that arena. You thought you were bigger than that logo. You thought you were bigger than that crowd. You thought that you were better than those people in those moments. And I'm talking directly to Kyrie Irving right now. You have a problem with thinking you're better than people. And I think I believe you've made a change for the positive. I believe that in my heart. I think it shows that how you've carried yourself and comported yourself across the playoffs. But I just want you to know this is a hard lesson doled out to you, courtesy of the city of Boston and the Boston Celtics. So from me and the entirety of the Missing the Point podcast, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, Kyrie Irving, hold those L's. Hold those L's. Hold them in your hands. Put them in a bag. Carry the bag around with you. Sisyphean.
He still hasn't beat us since he stepped on the logo. That streak is still intact.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. You shouldn't have done that.
Beautiful.
You shouldn't have done that.
It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite things of this whole thing. I hope we sweep them just so we can keep that going.
Oh, we're gonna sweep. That's for fucking sure. But that brings us really nicely on to a prediction for Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. The game 4, I would say pretty likely final, but maybe a gentleman's sweep. I wouldn't mind going back to Boston. It'd be the game I would be most okay with losing. Depending on the manner in which we lose it. Because I would love to see them raise the banner in Boston, like we did when we beat the Lakers. It's just nicer,
Yeah.
I don't feel any kind of way about winning in Dallas. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to like, oh yeah, we fucking did it on Dallas's court. It's like you're not a rival of ours. Like we have one rival, and it's the Los Angeles Lakers. That's it. It's just us and them. That's the level. People don't understand that, but it's true.
I don't think it's coming back though. They had to pull off that comeback yesterday. The fact that we went on, they say it's a game of runs. Every single time the Mavs have any kind of momentum or anything like that, we make that important defensive stop and end that run every single time. And it just seems like they always take the bad shot, and we always end up capitalizing. Jaylen Brown yamming down on people.
Did you see that dunk, dude? Holy shit.
Dude,
that was my favorite moment, I think, of the entire playoffs. Because he took off from forever away. And I was really worried. I was like, oh, shit, he took off like pretty far out. Like, I don't know if he's going to make that. And he had to like summon the fucking courage of the gods. And he made like a yelling noise and then just like slammed it down. Like slammed it down. And I was like, yes. Yes.
I think the Celtics want the sweep. Just to end, they're smelling it, bro.
Real professional playoff performance if they sweep. Like they really just came in here and they just took care of business, dude. Like what else can you say about a team like that? Like I think if we sweep and you look at this playoffs from like a zoomed out perspective, like I don't even think any of the narky little comments are gonna matter. I don't think what people say is gonna matter. I think they'll be like, "Oh, this team," and we'll be like, "Doesn't matter. We were the best team by like a mile. We were the best team by like a million miles. It wasn't close. We fucked everybody up." And we did it all season. I know people have been saying that. But we did it all season, and then we did it all playoffs. We lost 2 games if we sweep these fuckers.
Yeah. We better not revert. So that's the thing that scares me is like, I just don't want, which I don't think will happen, which is why, like, I feel like, like we want to talk about ways they could lose and things that could happen, but I don't see this team falling back into those bad habits.
I mean, they already didn't, right? Like
Right.
like if they were gonna do it, they would have done it last night.
So it's just like, as I want to sit here and be like, well, we could do this or, this bad thing could happen, but I just don't see that happen. I would, it'd be so hard to imagine them for an entire game or for an extended stretch, even them reverting back to those old bad habits that kills them. You know what I mean? That's when the Celtics start losing games. And that happened in the regular season. Any game that they lose, they always revert back to those bad habits of the isocentric, your turn, my turn. But
there was a little bit of JT like step back threes, and then there was a mic'd up moment. Did you catch this?
Where he like, called himself out.
He was like, "We gotta not settle for bad like step back threes," and I include myself in that. Like I know that I do that too, and I was like, "Oh, he said it. He finally said it. He knows." But you know what, dude? Like honestly, I'm gonna be a little easier on him because he like acknowledged it. Because I just always thought like it could be the worst case scenario. He could just like have convinced himself that like he's this like absolutely lethal 3-point shooter, and he just isn't statistically. And that's just the best way to, like you just look at Steph Curry's numbers, right? And like that being the benchmark now, and you're just like the advanced analytics on him, like where he's able to shoot from and still have it be a high percentage shot. Like what a good 3-pointer is just different now. And he's also 6'10".
Yeah.
And like
he's such a good rebounder now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, dude, just be 6'10", bro. Yeah. This is all anyone's ever been saying, and he's like doing that now.
He
and
can
I
play the 5.
Dude, I was calling for a small ball lineup with him at the 5 for the entirety of like the experimental Miami series where it didn't matter and we were always going to win the series. I was like, dude, play a small ball 5. Let's just see. Let's just fucking see, because like I don't think Kristaps is going to make it through the whole playoffs. And like, lo and fucking behold, he goes down in the Cleveland series, and I'm like, ugh, okay. I wish we had experimented with a little bit of a small ball lineup, but we didn't, and we never really needed it. Instead, it was like we're gonna do a little bit of Xavier Tillman, I guess, in Game 3 against the Mavs, and I was
so
like,
weird with the guys.
I was even out there, like I was confused, and like
he was a 3 though.
Fine, he was kind of fine. Well, they were leaving him open all game, and I think that your deep role player, when you get on a run, I mean, I was thinking that in the back of my mind. I'm like, there's gonna be a moment where they leave him open, and if the Celtics are smart enough, and I think the Sam Cassells of the world are. Someone's going to be like, yeah, they're sagging off you, but just wait. You don't have the green light quite yet. When you hit your 3, it'll be huge. It'll be huge. But just wait until you have all the fucking time in the world. And when you do, shoot it, and shoot it with the confidence that we're all behind you. And like, that's how you coach. That's coaching a shot. That's one big 3 that you coach into it. And the 08 Celtics were the absolute best at this. They were a big shot team. And you remember this, right? Like they were a bang team. And like, I loved that about them. Like we would just hit big shots at big moments. And man, did they remind me of the finals of yore, in moments where they hit big shots down the stretch. And the guys who hit big shots down the stretch were Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and like, that's just the way it is. And it was the most important stretch of our whole Jaylen and Jason era. I would say it was the most important 9 minutes of the last 10 years of Celtics basketball. 14 years of Celtics basketball.
Isn't that why it never really felt in question, which is the craziest part.
It almost felt weird. It felt like my brain sort of, it wasn't the excitement of 08 or even the surprise of 2 years ago.
It's a cocky feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little bit like, yeah, you're not
coming fuck with us.
Fucking near us. I was texting in the Discord ludicrously early before the comeback. I was like, Print the t-shirts. Print the fucking t-shirts, dude. Like put the hats, put the Celtics logos on the hats, buy the cigars, plan the parade route. This is fucking over. And then they started to come back, and I was like, oh shit, probably shouldn't have said anything. But we still won, so it was fine. Yeah. They're also unjinxable. They're too good.
Yeah,
they're just too fucking good. I can't expect.
There's too many big moments where it's like, in a basketball.
No, we've graduated. They've graduated. Yeah, they did the work, and they're here now.
In a game, there's always those big moments where, like, game one specifically, I remember there was a moment. It was like the Mavs were up 13-7 or something like that.
Yeah,
and they had a chance to extend it out.
They were really good at not going down too much for the whole season.
To that 10-point lead, and all of a sudden, boom, they make a turnover. We go down, hit a three, and all of a sudden, it's a 3-point game instead of an 8-point game. And those are the moments that in the past wouldn't go in our favor. And instead of it being a 3-point game, it would be an 11-point game. And all of a sudden, we'd be building uphill the entire way for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
We'd be the team on the comeback. This year, it's the exact opposite, where it's like instead of 8-point game, it's a 3-point game. Or in the last game, the comeback, instead of a 3-point game, we're still up by 7 or we're still up by 8, specifically because of like a defensive stop or good ball movement. That's the thing that I think is going to take us in this next game, is that ball movement, man. It's so pretty, even without Kristaps.
I mean, coming out of the first half.
Yeah, 4 or 5 passes on each possession, which is what
it's great when they do that. That reminds me of like old Brad Stevens style ball when they go into that mode. And coming out in the second half of the last game of Game 3, I mean, they played some of the best basketball the whole year. They just popped coming out of the second half and built that huge lead. And the comeback just wasn't as good as that. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, it happened at a more inopportune time for our designs on winning the game. But man, didn't they also just seem like completely unaffected by the crowd?
Yeah.
Like I just at any point, I just didn't see them rattle from the crowd, like even a little bit. Maybe some of the circumstances got in their heads a little bit in moments, but they shook it off. But the crowd just didn't affect them. The crowd was pretty loud from what I was hearing on TV. What did you think?
Yeah. They get quiet fast, though. Dallas crowd gets quieted pretty quick, man. They do.
There was in the after show they had Tatum on, and Chuck was like, "Is this Boston?" Like there were so many Celtics fans cheering for Tatum on the NBA after show, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "We travel good too. We're everywhere. We're like a virus. You just can't get rid of us. We show up in random cities."
Luckiest people on earth.
Luckiest people on earth. Don't step on it. All right. Well, Friday, Game 4. We'll have to react to it. Win or lose. Maybe there's more basketball to talk about after this. Or maybe we have to go into the long, hot summer. But for myself and the real BK Bob Kelly, this has been Missing the Point.